An urgent need for social distancing. Air 4 flew over 3 popular Seattle parks, Alki Beach, Gasworks Park, and Golden Gardens, and we're still seeing people out there.
This despite the urgent call to remain vigilant when it comes to social distancing. A few lax moments outside could put weeks of work at risk. We have team coverage. KOMO's Steve McCarron is standing by with how rules will be enforced at those local parks. But we start with KOMO's Keith Eldridge, who spoke to the governor today.
It's going to be a perfect weekend because I think it's going to be a little sunny. Daffodils are going to be up, and we all have loved ones that we can communicate with electronically and at distance. And people are going to have a good weekend. It might be a little different than most weekends of this particular weekend, of this holiday or this faith observance. And it has to be because we love our family and we want to protect them.
How are you going to enforce it? You're going to have to use some police powers.
Well, it's self-enforcing. The vast majority of Washingtonians are smart enough to know that social distancing is necessary right now. They care enough to understand they don't want to put their loved ones or the community at risk. And they recognize that what we're doing actually is having an impact of bending that curve down.
We've only had 17 deaths in a county of 250,000 people. The problem is not as big as we expected. And people have every right to make up their own mind and not be told what to do by the governor that does not represent the side of the state.
What are your thoughts for him?
My thoughts are that nobody's listening to him, thank goodness, because that's a very dangerous thing to do right now. For anybody, elected leader or family member, to try to put the rest of their loved ones at risk, I don't cotton to that.
Cities like Chicago and New Orleans have been releasing their demographic information of who's died and who's tested positive for COVID. But that hasn't been the case of the state of Washington. Now new numbers coming from just King County about the 274 people who have died here because of the coronavirus just here. It's been frustrating numbers to get.
We've been trying hard at the city to get that information.
It's the demographics of who's died, who has and has not tested positive, their race, social economic status, so help can be targeted.
We are getting closer to pulling together our data around everyone who's been hospitalized with COVID-19 in the state, and we do have very complete race and ethnicity data.
But new numbers show 74% of those who have died so far from COVID in King County were white, 15% Asian, 4% Black, 5% Hispanic, and 1% Pacific Islander.
About that same percentage, 65%, maybe a little more, of the deaths have been directly associated with nursing homes, starting with the nursing home in Kirkland.
What decision makers suspect is lower income and disadvantaged people are not only more at risk at catching the virus, they're more likely to suffer economically, be closer to homelessness. In response, King County United Way, the city and county launched a $5 million grant program for low-income renters who couldn't pay their April rent because of COVID.
And then make a payment directly to the landlord to address the April rent.
Those who qualify fill out an online form and could expect one-time payments immediately until the money runs out. The city and the county are spending tens of millions of dollars in COVID relief right now.
We are spending money that effectively we do not have. We are spending money to try to protect people and stop the spread of illness. But if we don't receive reimbursement from the state or federal government, that's going to result ultimately in having to cut critical government services.
Well, State Farm says that it's going to be refunding up to $2 billion to its auto insurance customers, and that Allstate will be paying about $600 million. So if you drive, you might want to check your bank account or your credit card in the next few days or weeks.
We have insurance through Allstate.
Chances are you'll be getting a break from your car insurance carrier in the form of a refund for not driving during the governor's stay-at-home order.
I'm no longer commuting to my office downtown. I'm staying home.
There's a growing list of auto insurance providers that are stepping up and giving drivers a little break.
The roads are really quiet. People are being asked to stay at home, and if they're not driving as many miles, that means that the number of accidents is going down and the number of claims that we're responding to is going down.
Allstate, Liberty Mutual, and Safeco are just a few companies offering auto insurance customers 15% back on 2 months of their premium. Doing some quick math, if you pay $90 a month for car insurance and your company gives you a 15% credit a month for 2 months, that's a savings of about $27.
You know, every little bit counts right now for folks, particularly those who have been seeing their jobs disrupted.
Kenton Brine is with Northwest Insurance Council.
I think a lot of businesses are trying to find ways to be helpful, and insurers are responding in other ways too, like giving grace periods and not canceling policies.
PEMCO Insurance is offering its auto insurance customers a 15% credit for 3 months.
We have approximately 200,000 customers or so. So if you do the math, you know, that's a pretty big savings for a lot of people.
I think anytime that big corporations can cut a break for people who might have a change in their circumstance, it's fabulous.
The parking lot here at Gasworks Park is already blocked up. You have the barriers up and the signs already in place. The mayor told us today she hopes enforcement of these parking closures or park closures this weekend will not be necessary, but expecting everyone to recognize the need to do the right thing. She says Seattle police will be ready to step in if needed.
It's a beautiful day.
The sun shines down on what's shaping up to be a clear spring night at Gasworks Park. Visitors walking and riding their bikes, something the mayor expects not to see here after 11 o'clock when 15 popular Seattle parks and beaches close until early Monday morning.
This isn't a time for us to have to resort to enforcement. This is a time for all of us to step up and do what we need to do to keep our community safe.
Durkin says park employees will be out to remind people the parks are off limits. Seattle police tell me they're ready to respond if things get out of hand, but there will be no designated patrols focused strictly on those violating park closures. In Tacoma,
people with masks, they think they're bulletproof.
Greg Thompson noticed most seem to be keeping their distance during his walk along Ruston Way. Metro Parks Tacoma says its parks and trails remain open for walking, running, or biking, but no gatherings are allowed. The agency is relying on police and deputies to enforce the rules, but Tacoma police tell me they're not enforcing social distancing at parks.
Everybody's getting nervous. Everybody wants to make it back by Easter. It's such an arbitrary finish line.
We're live in a country that we've never, in my generation, and I'm 61, haven't had to do this.
Park rangers will continue to patrol parks in Everett, where parks can still be used for walking or biking, but beaches, off-leash areas, and skate parks are now closed. In King County, parks are also closed, and parking lots and trailhead gates are locked. In Pierce County, parks are closed, but trails are still open. Pierce County Parks hasn't directly asked the Sheriff's Department to enforce park restrictions and tells me it is not expanding security services that were already in place before the pandemic began. So here in Seattle, it's important to note that neighborhood parks will remain open this weekend, and there are hundreds of them. A couple of agencies told me today that one big issue that they're seeing is people parking right in front of park gates that are blocked or closed at that time. And that can really restrict access for emergency vehicles if they need to get in. So depending on the case, the drivers of those vehicles who have blocked these entrances could be cited or even have their vehicles towed.